Hello and welcome everyone. The topic of today's session is story writing. So today we will be discussing how to construct, how to write a story. Stories have been a great source of entertainment and amusement, isn't that? It's not that only young people, the children only enjoy, they only like listening to stories, but even elderly people also. So it delights the young as well as the old minds. Apart from entertainment, stories are also a great source of knowledge enhancement. In this respect, it can be said like the stories from the Panchatantra, the stories from the Jataka tales, different folk tales, fairy tales, they all have some or the other meaning, some or the other moral lesson. So, stories not only entertain us, but they also make us aware of the world around. They also give us some or the other kind of knowledge. We all enjoy stories in different forms, isn't that? At times we read storybooks, at times we listen to stories, and at times we even watch movies. Now, what are these movies? These are also stories. So it can be seen that stories are very important for us. We all enjoy stories, right? So today we are going to learn how to build up a good story, a good, interesting story. Remember, if your story is not interesting, nobody would read it, isn't it? So let's discuss how to write good stories, okay? When we talk about story writing, there are two major features which would make a story very, very interesting. And those two major features are the plot of the story and the language of the story, right? Now, the plot of the story should be very, very interesting. The events should be arranged in a very well structured manner. They should be arranged one after the other in a very natural and logical way, so that it holds the attention of the reader. You know, the element of excitement and surprise must compel the reader to read the story, to finish the story in one go, right? It should be very, very interesting, and it should hold the interest of the reader. And secondly, the language of the story, right? That is the language of the story. All the characters and the events should be presented in a very good language with rich vocabulary, right? So that so that the story doesn't look dull. Once it becomes dull, the reader would lose his or her interest, right? So these are the two major features of a good story, that is good plot and good language presentation. Further, we will discuss some of the important points that we should keep in mind while writing a story, right? So, first of all, clear idea of the plot. So we should have a very clear idea of the plot, right? The basic plot, what it should be, you should have a very clear idea, right? So you think on the plot and try to construct a good plot. Next, follow the prepared outline. So whatever plot you had thought of, try to follow that particular outline. You must have, when you're thinking of a story, you must have thought about what would be the main streamline of the story. So think on that and then follow that outline, right? Next, clear setting and characters clearly portrayed. So this is again a very, very important point. Your story should have a backdrop, right? Maybe suppose if you're talking about a story, if you're writing a story which takes place in a village area, so you have to give a clear description of that. If your story has a city background, you have to give a clear description, right? So the setting is very important. And next, the characters. The characters should be clearly portrayed, right? Your main character, your little less important characters, all the characters you have thought of, they should be introduced very clearly in your story. Next is proper emphasis to each point. Now here is where your imagination plays a very vital role. It plays a very important role. How you present your story, yeah, right? Your imagination, how imaginative you are, right? That would again help your story to be interesting. So you have to be very imaginative, very creative minded while you're writing your story. Next, unity and connectivity in the paragraphs. Now keep one thing in mind, your story should not be in one single paragraph, right? You may change the paragraphs. Okay, now when you are changing the paragraph, there should be a connectivity between the paragraphs, right? The changeover of the paragraph should not, should be interlinked, should be well connected, or else your story would go vague, right? Next is fast moving actions. So unnecessarily don't stretch your story. The events should happen one after the other, and they should not be unnecessarily, stretched. It should be very fast moving. Or else, if your story goes slow, the reader would lose the interest. Next, conversations and dialogues. So this is again a very important point. You may include conversations between the characters, or you may use dialogues. This would make your story look very natural and very lively, right? Next, conclusion, very natural and clear. So the story should have a very clear conclusion. Your ending last paragraph, right? The last paragraph of the story should be very clear, should look very natural. Okay, the ending must satisfy the reader, right? That is a very, very important point of a good story, right? Apart from these points, the further points which should be kept in mind is that you must choose a suitable title for your story. Your title should be connected with the theme of the story, right? And after that, the most important, again, the thing which is very important is the simple and correct language. So whatever words you are using, you have to be very, very particular about those words. The flow of language should be good, and fine, you may use simple language, but it should be correct, right? And children, one more thing I would like to point out here, preferably you write your stories in past tense, right? That makes it easier for you to go on with the story. So apart from title and suitable and correct language, another important thing that you should always keep in mind is word limit. Try to finish off your story within the given word limit, right? That is very, very important from the examination point of view. Okay, so I hope all of you have understood all these points well, and I'm sure if you keep these points in your mind while writing a story, you will be able to construct a very, very good and interesting story. Children, you might be asked to develop stories in two ways, right? Now, what are these two ways? Either by expansion of a story from the given outline. So in one case, you might be given the outline. The complete outline can be given in the form of clues or points, and you have to develop your story based on those points, right? Those clues, the outline given. And secondly, you might be asked to write a story with a given beginning. In this case, in the second case, the beginning, the opening line is given, and you have to then carry on with the story. So these are the two ways stories are written, right? So children, I hope all of you have understood the topic well. So keep writing, keep practicing writing stories. This is the only way you can improve your creative writing, and you can present good written work, right? So we'll meet again in the next session with some other topic. Thank you, children.